Hello family, this is Pascal here once again on the channel Explore with Pascal. And this man here is Charles Gamkei Taylor, the former president of Liberia, a man who became a savior in the eyes of some, a man who became a symbol of destruction in the eyes of others. So Charles Taylor was born in 1948 in Afenfen, Liberia, a small settlement founded by freed black Americans. Charles did not grow up wealthy or powerful. Like many other Liberians, he grew up witnessing inequality, especially between the ruling American Liberian elites and the religious indigenous majority. As a young man, Taylor left Liberia for the United States, where he studied economics. On paper, his future looked very promising. He was educated, ambitious, and very sharp. But ambition, when mixed with grievance and hunger for power, can become very dangerous. Now, when Taylor returned to Liberia in the 1970s, the country was already boiling. Liberia had been ruled for over 130 years by some small elite class. Then in 1980, everything changed. Samuel Doe, a military sergeant, led a violent coup and assassinated the then president, William Tolbert. It was the first time Liberia was being ruled by an indigenous leader. At first, many Liberians celebrated. They believed Doe would bring justice and equality, but hope quickly turned into fear. Doe's government became well known for corruption, ethnic favoritism, brutality, and repression. Political opponents were tortured, some imprisoned, and some unalived. Trust in his leadership vanished. At this point, Liberia was no longer unstable. It was desperate, and desperation creates opportunity. Taylor aligned himself with the new regime, and he was appointed to a government position in charge of procurement. Soon after his appointment, he was accused of embezzlement of nearly $1 million United States dollars of government funds. With these allegations surrounding his neck, Charles Taylor fled Liberia and was later arrested in the United States. Under mysterious circumstances, Charles Taylor escaped from prison, an escape that still raises questions today. And that escape changed everything. Charles Taylor did not return to his home country as a politician, but he returned as a rebel. On December 24, 1989, Charles Taylor and his rebel group, the National Patriotic Front of Liberia, NPFL, crossed into Liberia from Cote d'Ivoire. At first, it looked like a small rebellion. Within months, it became a full-scale war. Taylor framed himself as a liberator, someone who removed Samuel Doe and freed Liberia from shackles. Many Liberians, exhausted and angry, supported Charles Taylor. But what followed was a total chaos. Children were turned into soldiers, villages were burned, civilians were unalived, and neighbors turned against neighbors. In 1990, Samuel Doe was captured by Charles Taylor and his troops, and he was brutally unalived. But Doe's death did not bring peace. It brought more chaos, more war. For 14 years, Liberia was trapped in violence. Different rebel factions emerged. Alliance shifted. Charles Taylor controlled large part of the country, running what many called a shadow state. He funded his activities through natural resources, mainly timber, gold, and diamond. Over 250,000 people were unalived and millions displaced. An entire generation traumatized. Liberia infrastructure collapsed. Schools closed down, hospitals vanished, and childhood disappeared. And yet, despite all this, Taylor still remained powerful. Now, in 1997, after several years of fighting, elections were finally held. Charles Taylor ran for president, and he eventually won. The people did not select him based on his policies, but based on fear. They believed that if Taylor lost, the war would surely return and there would be no end to it. So they voted him into office. Charles Taylor won the elections with overwhelming majority, and he became the president of Liberia. For many, it felt like peace had finally arrived. But peace built on fear is fragile. As president, Taylor ruled with iron hand. Opposition voices were silenced, journalists were threatened, and former allies were eliminated. The economy remained weak, and corruption continued. And so now, rebel groups begin to form again, this time against Charles Taylor. By 2003, Liberia was back into war again. Very sad situation. The capital, Monrovia, came under siege. Thousands of civilians were trapped and the world watched. Finally, under international pressure, Charles Taylor resigned. He went into exile in Nigeria, and the war at last came to an end. Liberia was broken but alive. With international support, the country began to rebuild. Refugees returned, schools reopened, and roads were repaired. In 2005, there was another light of hope. Liberia made history by electing Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Africa's first elected female president. It was a new chapter, but the past had not disappeared. Charles Taylor was arrested, handed over to international authorities, and charged with war crimes and crimes against humanity. Now, in 2012, he was convicted and sentenced to 50 years imprisonment. A former president, a former warlord, now a prisoner. Now, here is the lessons Liberia teaches the world. For me, I think leadership matters. One person's ambition can shape the fates of millions. Violence never delivers lasting solutions. Fear is not peace. Nations can heal, but only when the truth is confronted. Taylor's life is a clear representation that power gained through distractions ends in ruin. Liberia's survival reminds us that even after darkness, rebuilding is still possible. History does not only ask us to remember, but it asks us to learn. And the story of the good people of Liberia is not finished yet. Shout out to the good people of Liberia, and you've shown to the world that no man born of a woman can change the destiny of your beautiful country. And Africa and the whole of the world appreciate your courage and resilience. This is Pascal here, and this is the channel Explore with Pascal. Subscribe to it, share, drop your comments. Let's know where you're watching me from. Until I meet you again, take good care of yourself.